Welcome back, grinders, to Daily Grind. I'm Stephen Daly. Some of you are professional actors, not on stage, not in movies, at work. You ever notice how busy someone looks when the boss walks by? Suddenly there's a wrench in their hand, a rag over their shoulder, the truck door open, or the hood open? But 5 minutes earlier, they were scrolling on their phone in the cab, pretending to check the system. That, grinders, is shamming. It's not laziness, it's performance. It's the art of looking productive instead of being productive. And if you have ever grabbed a tool just to avoid eye contact with management, congratulations, you're in the club. The question is, are you surviving a system that wastes your time, or are you becoming the kind of person who only works when there's someone watching?
This is Daily Grind. I don't do safe topics, trigger warnings, or corporate-friendly bullshit. No subject is off limits. Political, true crime, history, or whatever else gets the gears grinding in your head. I grind into reality like it owes me rent.
Shamming, grinders, is something I learned when I was in the military, but you can apply it to civilian life as well. Shamming is strategic invisibility from meaningless work while still protecting your ability to perform meaningful work. In other words, a way to avoid bullshit details. Lazy people avoid responsibility. Shammers avoid stupidity. Lazy people vanish when something real needs to get done. Shammers, they show up when it counts and disappear when it's nothing but optics. And that difference matters. Your brain doesn't hate effort, it hates disrespect. It hates being forced to burn energy for tasks that exist purely to satisfy someone else's insecurity. Think about this. Why does a 12-hour shift, maybe plowing snow for example, feel different than 2 hours reorganizing cones that were already organized? Why does real grind feel heavy but satisfying, and fake grind feels draining and fucking irritating? It's because your nervous system tracks meaning. When work has impact, your body tolerates stress. When work is bullshit in theater, your body resists. So what does it do? It protects itself. It slows down. It conserves. It learns camouflage. And shamming is how you do that. Have you ever dragged out a task because finishing it too fast would screw you? I like to say, never work yourself out of a good job. Have you ever cleaned the same tool twice because looking occupied is safer than looking efficient? How many times have you sat in a vehicle with the door open at work, a rag in your hand, wiping the same dashboard spot while checking your phone, just so it looks like something is happening? That's shamming, and I want you to be honest. Why does this feel necessary? Before we continue on to the next segment, this episode is brought to you by Tactical Tool Carry. Simply hold a wrench, screwdriver, or a clipboard at all times and instantly become immune to pointless task assignments. Now featuring optional grease smudge for authenticity. Tactical Tool Carry. If it's in your hand, you're in demand. Let's get back into it. Let's talk about evidence. Modern work culture runs on visual proof. Dirty rags equal effort. Open hoods equal productivity. Papers spread across the desk equal importance. High email volume equals commitment. Nobody measures stillness correctly. Nobody measures silent competence. So people adapt to the measurement system. If wipes on the seat prove you clean the cab, you leave wipes visible. If grease on your gloves prove you are under the truck, you don't rush to wash them. If the shop sees you sweeping, even if the floor is already clean and you didn't sweep a single square inch, just keep looking engaged. That's optics engineering, and it's everywhere. Why do you think people type louder when their boss walks by? Why do people walk faster when someone's watching? Why the fuck does finishing early feel risky? Because visibility is currency. And when visibility becomes currency, authenticity, it takes the back seat. Ask yourself this. If your supervisor truly measured output instead of activity, would you behave differently? Would you work faster? Would you work calmer? Or would you finally stop pretending? All right, let's go deeper than the jokes. Shamming is about agency. When people feel they have control over their effort, they give more. When people feel controlled, they protect themselves. The more an organization leans into surveillance, the more people lean into performance. GPS trackers in trucks, keystroke monitoring, time audits, productivity dashboards, all sold as efficiency. But what do they really say? We don't trust you. And when trust drops, performance rises. Not real performance, visual performance. If you track mouse movement, people jiggle the mouse. If you track hours, people stretch hours. If you track salt usage, people optimize the number, not the road. Control culture doesn't eliminate shamming. It just creates experts. Let me ask you something. Do you work hard because you believe in what you're doing? Or because someone might check the report later? And if cameras disappeared tomorrow, what would you change about your pace? We're going to have one more ad break before we continue. Today's episode is sponsored by Clean Cab Ultra Wipes. One wipe on the dashboard, one wipe on the floor, one hood popped open. Instantly, 300% more productive looking Clean Cab Ultra Wipes because optics beats output. There are two kinds of unnecessary work, the shitty detail and the ego detail. The shitty detail is busy work invented because someone cannot tolerate idle bodies. The ego detail exists so someone higher can feel important. Reorganize that shelf again. Repaint that line again. Rewrite that report again. Does it improve anything? No, not really. But it proves someone is managing. And here's the dangerous part. When everything is labeled urgent, urgency loses meaning. If every task is high priority, nothing is high priority. If every email is marked as critical, critical becomes noise. So when something actually matters, people are numb. Fake urgency destroys respect for real urgency. Are you exhausted because of the real mission or because of constant artificial pressure? How much of your stress is real? How much is performance? Now let's turn inward. Sometimes we sham strategically. Sometimes we sham because we're afraid. Afraid of becoming the reliable one who always gets more dumped on him. Afraid that if we show full capability, that becomes the permanent baseline. Afraid that competence equals punishment. Have you ever intentionally slowed down so you wouldn't be seen as the guy who can handle everything? Have you ever blended in to protect your energy? That's protective. But there's another version. Are you ever using camouflage to avoid growth? Avoid responsibility you're capable of. Avoid stepping into leadership because you don't want the heat. There's a difference between conserving energy and shrinking yourself. Which one are you doing, and why? And we're going to draw something clearly too. Shamming or protective camouflage is not abandoning real responsibility. When it's time to go, you fucking go. When safety's involved, you show up. When people depend on you, you grind. There's no shamming in a real emergency. You know the difference in your gut. Mission critical versus ego critical. Outcome versus optics. The problem is we've blurred those lines so badly that people can't tell what's real anymore. So they protect themselves by default. They conserve. They camouflage. They survive. But here's the deeper question. What would your work look like if trust replaced surveillance? If results replaced optics? If calm competence was celebrated instead of punished? Would shamming disappear? Or is it human nature inside of any hierarchy? Before I close this episode, it's story time with Steve. I gotta tell you one little quick story.
Story time with Steve.
When I worked at the county jail I worked at, the jail captain, Captain Brookins, this little short, pint-sized southern prick from Missouri, could not stand seeing anyone idle. This is an example of the ego detail. I was out back, sitting at the supervisor's desk, going through some arraignment paperwork for that day. And Captain Brookins comes out back. "Hey, Corporal, I noticed your floor officer was sitting in the radio room, and there's some squeaky doors in the jail. Why don't you have that officer get some WD-40 from maintenance and go lubricate them doors?" And I'm just thinking in my head, well, why don't you just have fucking maintenance do it? But I'm also aware that there's politics involved in jobs like this. So I was just like, yeah, roger that. I get up and I go over to the floor officer. I'm like, hey, go grab an inmate, head down to maintenance, get some WD-40, go around the jail and just have that inmate lubricate some door hinges so they're not squeaking. And that's it. The ego detail got satisfied, and I kept the officer within the capacity of his job of supervising inmates. Done. And then we were down in the Max unit one day doing some cell searches. I look on the wall of one of these cells, and written in big bold Sharpie, it said, "Fuck Captain Brookins." And Captain Brookins was down there on the block. And I'm like, "Hey, Captain, come here, check this out." I point it out to him. He looks at me, nods his head like he's saying no, and he's like, "Man, I seen it." All right, let's close out this episode. But before I do, Captain Brookins, I doubt you're going to hear this podcast, but if you do, I hope you're doing good in your retirement. Here's the raw truth. Shamming isn't the disease. It's the symptom. It grows in environments where trust is low, where optics outweigh outcomes, where visible stress earns praise, and calm efficiency earns suspicion. You don't get paid to perform anxiety. You get paid to produce value. If you've got a tool in your hand, you look busy. If there are dirty wipes on the floor, it looks like progress. By the end of the day, only one thing actually matters. Did the work that counts get done? Grind when it's real, conserve when it's theater. Don't confuse motion with meaning. And don't let a system addicted to optics convince you that exhaustion is the only proof you're worth something. Remember, discomfort builds, comfort obeys. This has been Daily Grind, and I'm Stephen Daly, your host. I'll see you next time. Thank you for listening.